Hello, I'm Paul McGatchy, and I'm with Donnie Klingler, and we are both veterans, and we've spent a lot of time in active duty service. And one of the main topics that we really want to talk about is just life after the military, preparing for life after the military while you're in, and then what life is like potentially when you're outside of the military. We're going to cover a range of topics, everything from finances to leadership to education. But anyways, I'm going to kick it over to Donnie, and what do you have to say?
Yeah, my name's Donnie Klingler. I am a 12-year Air Force veteran. I separated about a year and a half ago, and so I have firsthand knowledge of what we're talking about a little bit, and just wanted to share some insight with all of you.
Yeah, so Donnie and I we worked together several years, and we've had two assignments. Was it two assignments we had together?
Two assignments together, yeah.
Yeah, two assignments, and then we were deployed together during COVID. Were you on that deployment? No, you were not on that
No, I
deployment.
was no,
Yeah,
no.
we
I was,
deployed before that together, and we have a couple different tours. We spent a tour in Germany together, and then one over in Idaho. So we have we've worked together quite a bit. And anyway, so Donnie got out. I'm still actively serving at the moment, and I'm looking. I probably have another 4 years or so before potentially get out. So I'm in the middle of this preparing for transition thing, and I'm kind of learning from his experiences and some of the other people that we've talked to. But one of the first topic we're going to talk about is military life doesn't last forever. So I think that you have a really unique perspective on that.
yeah, I guess I could get in that topic. So military life doesn't last forever. I got out because I decided not to get the COVID shot. So the mandate popped up. I decided it wasn't something I wanted to do. I was at 12 and a half years at the time, and I really started to look at things a little differently, and I decided, maybe it was time to get out. I didn't expect to. Paul knows I was looking to do 20. I was up for E7. I was pretty excited about that. Doing a lot of work in the training shop with you as my supervisor. It's pretty awesome. But I just made the decision to get out, and I definitely was not prepared. So that's why I think these topics and this podcast in the future will definitely could help potentially a lot of people out. I think that's a big driving factor why we wanted to do it.
Yeah, I think you actually landed on your feet pretty well. And that's because while you weren't planning to get out as soon as you did, you were taking steps previously to get there. I mean, you were already complete with a master's degree. Your PMP followed shortly after. So you had taken steps to be able to land on your feet, but you hadn't prepared yourself with your network, right? As far as like trying to prepare yourself to find jobs that were available and that kind of stuff. You'd kind of been setting yourself up academically. And my big perspective on this, and I've always talked about it, for me, this became this idea that you need to prepare yourself for life, that the military doesn't last forever. Really, there's a couple different things. One, 20 years happens fast, and we see this quite a bit where I've had friends that literally get out, they think they're doing well, but they weren't prepared for it because 20 years feels like a long time. You think you have 20 years, 25 years, whatever it is with your higher tenure that you're working with, and you just don't do the things you need to get ready. So then when people do actually separate or retire, whatever it is, they aren't making the money that they thought they were going to make because one, they didn't do the things that you did to get ready. Two, they didn't have the savings or even the infrastructure such as houses, whatever it may be, set in place. And I think that in the military, we just get institutionalized that this is going to be a long-term deal, and 20 years really isn't that long term. I mean, I'm kind of on the tail end of that. So I got a few more years before I'm right at 20, but I'm getting close. And it's right around the corner, and we're starting to really prepare for it. I mean, we've been preparing for 10 years probably, but we're actually now like, what are we going to do when we get out? And that kind of gets to my perspective, which is, man, it comes much faster than you think.
Yeah, and then even what you think you may want to do when you get out may not actually be what you want to do when you get out. It's kind of eye-opening when you're actually in that experience. I thought I wanted to get into project management, and the more I deal with project managers, I don't know if it's really something I want to do anymore. Like it's great resume padding, but other than that, I don't know if that's what I really want to do anymore.
Well,
So
what I find interesting is one of the topics we're going to talk about, we can kind of just jump into it and we frog leap just a little bit, was finding your purpose. And I think that what you hit on is project management maybe isn't your purpose, but it could be what you do when you find your purpose. right? Imagine you were doing project management in something that you were passionate about, like helping veterans, prepare for retirement, or even disabled veterans find a sustainable living job or whatever it may be. I mean, if you had that type of drive and purpose, project management could help you do it. But project management may not be your purpose. It may just be a tool that you can use to drive your purpose.
That's 100% correct. Honestly, like that was pretty eye-opening. Project management in general, like the PMP certification, has taught me a lot and it opened my eyes. Like in the military, we do it all the time. We just don't always do it properly, I would say. Getting your PMP, going through that 40-hour course, taking that big test, putting down all the things that you've actually done projects on. It definitely helps you with time management, resource management, communication skills, things of that nature, timelines, budgeting. There's a lot of things that I'm doing now in my current role that actually does relate a lot to project management. So when I'm dealing with project managers or program managers, I kind of get some of their insight. And I mean, it's one of those things, you and I, we just keep stacking your education, keep stacking your certifications, become so valuable you're irreplaceable. We all know that we are irreplaceable, but having that mindset, I think, is key just in general to keep driving. Complacency is a killer, so we just got to keep getting better day in and day out, no matter how hard it is.
What do you think your purpose is now that you've been out for a little while?
I'm uh, I'm still not 100. I think this is part of my purpose now. Honestly, you and I have been talking about this for a few months now. We've been going back and forth. I definitely want to hit. I know you're going to do some podcasts on your own. I know I'm probably going to do some on my own, maybe on fitness. But I think a big driving factor is helping fellow veterans, just helping people in general. The older we get, it's like one of those things like, what are we actually giving back to society? We've lived some pretty blessed lives. I think both of us can admit to that. And it's like one of those things where we've gained knowledge and experience, and we can definitely help younger people and people the same age, even older. Learning it should be a
Mhm.
daily habit. So if you and I can just affect, I guess, one person off this podcast, that's a good start, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. I really like what you said, giving back to others. And I think that that is one of the things that drives people to serve, right? Is the desire to give back to the community, to your country, that kind of stuff. It's service to others. And I know that there's a lot of people doing for education, travel, all that kind of stuff. But at its core, most of us have an innate desire to serve our country and help others. And even with what we did in our career field, I mean, it was very relatable. Like you could see the impact, like almost instantly. Like you were helping people that were on the ground that needed help with support, with fires and whatever they were situation they were in. You're trying to save their lives essentially. And with what you're doing now, it isn't that you're not helping others and you're not doing that, but I think that maybe you're disconnected from that. You don't see that impact when you're like dealing with people or you see the mission results and that kind of stuff. Where if you have a direct impact and a direct connection with the people you're helping, maybe you'll be more fulfilled.
Yeah, maybe. And you're right. Like I landed 100% on my feet, probably better off than if I would have stayed in, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, the daily grind that we're going through in our career field with missions and admin, all that stuff really takes a toll on you. And I know you know that. We don't really have to delve into that, but I guess I don't see currently like um, what my role is in the greater scheme of things. But I know that I'm in a good position, so I can't really complain about that. I think a lot of that is what you said earlier was networking. You got to network 2 years before you're out. You got to be networking now. People that you know that are doing what you want to do when you get out, you should be talking to them and seeing if that's something that you actually want to do when you get out. Because again, it comes fast, and it may not come when you think it's going to come. So.
Yeah. So it was really interesting. You said you landed on your feet probably, and I think that you're probably financially better off than where you were when you were in. Just with the jobs that you're doing and that kind of stuff. A lot of times we're not making the amount of money we can in the civilian world when we're active duty. And that is 100% true. And you had to do it real quick and in a hurry, and you made the transition. I mean, you had a job really fast, and I think you had even probably a higher level leadership position within a couple months of you being out, just with the nature of your qualifications, your experience, and your education. But if you were to give some advice right now for people that let's say they've been in for 4 or 5 years and they want to try to prepare for either separation at the end of their enlistment or people that are coming at the end of their retirement. So you mentioned networking, right? So what kind of things can they do to network, and what kind of things do they need to be doing as far as preparing to get out other than networking?
I think, networking is huge on LinkedIn now. A lot of people don't even think about getting a LinkedIn until they get out. I would say a lot more officers do it just to kind of get in the game early. Definitely need to be networking that way, but also just talking to friends because you never know what kind of, you could get into a contracting role. You could, find out that your friend's working for a good company and he's already gotten out or she's already gotten out. And then you can they can put in a referral for you at a company and, you could land a job before you get out. Another key thing that the Air Force is huge on is skill bridge, right? So, I mean, you get the opportunity to work 6 months making the same pay, getting to learn a company, that gives you the advantage because you can kind of find out what the company's about, but also if the management's good, and even if you're going to like the position. So, and then you can get hired directly on, start the same day you get out. So,
Yeah, I love
great.
the skill bridge program is amazing. I know several people that have literally they've done the skill bridge, they got hired and they started the day they finished their active duty service and then just started
Yeah.
doing their program from there. Yeah,
Yeah.
skill bridge
So
is awesome.
networking's huge. And then I would say we've talked about this how many times? Use TA, use TA, use TA. Use Air Force Cool to get your certifications. Use TA though. The Air Force is one of the branches that really you can get an associate's degree without taking any classes. So I got my CCAF, my associate's degree through the Air Force without ever taking a class. I literally just took CLEPs and Dantes. I took exams to
Hmm.
basically get all my credits. Some other ways through like NCOA or no ALS, things of that nature. I essentially got an associate's for free, and then all those credits knocked out half my bachelor's degree. So I'm already in there. Took me 2.5 years to knock out my bachelor's, rolled straight into the master's. You were a big driving factor to finish my master's, so I finished that, rolled straight into a postgraduate in project management, PMP. Now I got Security Plus, and I'm looking at my Scrum Master cert in the next 2 or 3 months. With no, it's one of those things you just got to keep driving. Set your vision board, set where you want to be in 5 years, and just do it. You have to start. If you never start, you're never going to be done. So I think that's the biggest thing is taking that leap of faith and just saying, like, you need to prepare yourself now and just get going.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that. I mean, with my associate's degree, I think I took one in-person class. I did have some college credits from high school that transferred over. I took one class, and that was a math class. I didn't CLEP that, but I CLEPed all the other classes, and then just the Air Force training, it transferred over to my associate's degree. And then I ended up my bachelor's degree, I CLEPed, they took 28 credits from CLEPs in my bachelor's
Mm,
degree. Right. And I mean, that's pretty crazy. When I started actually working on my bachelor's degree, and I had passively worked on it just through Air Force credits and CLEPs and DSST and Dante's, not because I wanted to do it, but because it was like, hey, we need to submit you for some award or whatever. Your evaluation's coming up. You need to show significant self-improvement. So then I would just take two CLEPs and pass them, and that was just how I
yeah,
did it for most of my the first probably 5, 6, 7 years was just passively doing it. And then, I had a really good mentor, Lopez, and he literally made the call to the school for me to finish my CCAF. I'd been one class away for my associates for like 3 years, and he made the call to the school and said, "Hey, this guy needs to take this one class. When does it start?" He said, "Okay, I have his schedule deconflicted," and he literally came and called me into his office like, "Here, McGatchy, here's the phone." And I picked it up, and the lady on the phone said, "Hey, Lopez told me that you have the one class that you need to finish, and it starts in about 2 weeks. It's deconflicting from your schedule. I need a yes." And ever since then, I still haven't stopped taking classes. This was back in 2012, and I'm still
yeah,
doing it. But one thing that we talked about, though, and I really want to make this clear, is that the education is not going to make you, right? It opens doors. And that's what people don't understand is like, I don't need a bachelor's degree. I don't need a master's degree. I don't need a PMP, right? You don't need it. That's probably true. But what
no,
they do is they open doors to jobs that you may not have access to without them, right? You have the skills to do them probably already, through your experience in your service. But these degrees and these certifications allow you to get to jobs that you may not have access to without those degrees.
100%. It just gives you, a foot in the door. That's what it
Yep.
is.
And then one
You
thing I
still
would
have to
like,
build that skill set.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So the other thing we talked about is getting your finances together now. And we both are pretty financially centric. I was not when I was younger, and it's something that I kind of had to focus on. When I turned 30, I was just about to turn 30. I realized that I didn't have an education, I didn't have any savings, and I've been in the Air Force for almost 10 years now. And I was like, man, this next 10 years are going to go fast, right? And then I'm going to be at the point where I'm separating and I don't have anything, and I'm just going to be trying to survive. And I didn't want that. So I spent these last 10 years really focusing on getting together with the finances. So I think that finances and purpose are kind of connected, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on getting your finances together now.
Some of those things that, Dave Ramsey, all these guys talk about with finances is one, you should have at least 3 to 6 months in savings. A lot of people don't even think about that, because if you break your leg tomorrow and say you're not working, or when you decide to separate and you can't get that job that pays as much as you think you're worth, you might be living off savings for a while. So I would
Hmm.
say getting a safety net, getting your 3 to 6 months of savings going. You also need to pay off as much consumer debt as you can. Stop living off your credit cards. Really focus on living within a budget. Budgeting is huge, and you don't hear people talking about it nowadays because as a young airman, you're probably getting that Camaro with 27% interest, and you don't even know what credit is. But
Yeah.
pay off
Hmm.
your, use your credit cards, but pay them off. Pay them completely off monthly if you can. And this is easier said than done, but get your savings going, pay off your consumer debt, and then one thing, figure out where you're going to live before you get out. If you know that you're retiring, like where do you want to live? What do you want to do? If you know that you're going to separate and you want to go back to school, okay, start looking at housing. How much is that going to cost you? Do you have
Yeah.
enough savings? If you're separating, maybe you want a year of savings because who knows what's going to happen. You're used to the stability of the military paying you on the first and the 15th. You get out 6 months. Personally, I got one position when I got out as a supervisor at a manufacturing facility. Let's just say that, right? Great job working third shift. I just couldn't handle third shift. I was like, I'm 37 years old. I don't need to be doing this. I took 3 months off before I moved from Idaho to Florida, and that 3 months hurt me. I didn't have my VA coming in yet. I didn't have, I took those off intentionally for my mind, for my mindset, for my mental sanity, I guess. But that definitely was huge because we're traveling across country. Like that's expensive.
Yeah.
um, Things happen, and you need to be financially and mentally prepared for those.
You know, I really like the going to school comment that you made. Like, are you going to get out and go to school? When I went to my reenlistment, I actually my first enlistment, I only meant to do the 6 years, and then I was going to get out. It was, right after 2008. It was a couple years after that, and people still didn't have jobs. My friends were unemployed. I'm from Iowa, so it was, largely manual type labor stuff, and there just wasn't a lot for me to do. And I didn't have an education. I wasn't prepared. But when you think about getting out, I'm a huge proponent of real estate. We know, and you know this, and I really think the VA loan is the most underutilized tool of all military members. You can become a millionaire with your VA loan alone, just buying homes with your VA loan, and just buying real estate. And one of the best ways to do this when you're getting ready to get out, if you know that you're going to a specific school, you can do this a couple months before you get out. It depends on where your finances are, right? Because with the VA loan, you have to live in the property. But you could literally find the area that you're going to go to school, buy a multi-unit property, right? And then you can rent the other units out, and now you're living rent free because you bought the property at a value where the other 3 units, if you bought a quadplex, because you can buy up to 4 units with your VA loan. Anything 5 units or over is considered a commercial
Mhm.
property. 4 units are under a residential. And then you can rent them out. Or you could buy a bigger home that's going to be a little bit more expensive that you have extra rooms and you can rent those rooms out. That's called house
Mhm.
hacking, right? And that's a huge thing to do. And you talked about where do you want to live when you get out. So that's another thing. Literally, I'm sitting here at home with my son all by ourselves watching football. Pretty excited about that. My wife nags at us when we were watching football anyway, so it's kind of nice. Don't tell her I said that. Anyways, um,
So
right
probably seen
now,
it.
Right now, she's in San Diego, and the reason why she's in San Diego is we went to a conference there 2 months ago, and we fell in love with San Diego. But it's just stupid expensive to live in San Diego, and we really just don't want to live in a place that we have to pay that much for the cost of living, just daily living. You're talking about your living expenses with your rent, your mortgage, whatever you're doing, is just too expensive. But Tijuana is just across the border. Now, we don't want to live in Tijuana because Tijuana is pretty dangerous. Everybody knows that. But you have Rosarita and Ensenada. Ensenada is one of the safest cities in Mexico. And Ensenada is maybe about a 45-minute drive from the border. And you can get this little Century Pass thing that takes you 10 minutes to get across the border. So my wife is there right now looking at lots for us to buy and build on for our actual permanent retirement home when we decide that we want to retire. Now, we don't know if we want to retire there for sure, but we definitely want to have a property there. We're going to build a property there. But we look at this purpose. When we talk about financial planning, we talk about projecting your purpose. One of the biggest mistakes I think people make is they do not consider lifestyle. You have to consider lifestyle. How do you want to live when you get out? Do you want to have a job where you're working 24/7? Do you want to live in a place? Well, yeah, I mean, I'm living here, but I'm not really happy here. Hell no, you don't want to do that. When we were there, we said we want to live here. How can we make that happen? Well, guess what? We have a couple. We've started buying some properties overseas, and we actually have some properties in Mexico as well. So we've been through the buying process. It's a little bit confusing, but you can buy a lot there. We're looking at a lot for like 18,000. It's in a gated community, literally right there at the beach. You can walk to the beach in a minute or less, and it's $18,000 for the lot. That's crazy. And then you can build the property. We're going to build it later at our own cost, right? As we want to do that. And we can go about financing that however we want, but consider the lifestyle you want to live. How do you want to live when you get out? And that also feeds into your purpose, right? I mean, do you want to just work for somebody, or do you want to try and you could work for somebody, but you could do it remotely, right? So that's one of the things. I've started talking to people about what I want to do afterwards, but I tell them I want to do it remotely. And I've had a couple offers where it's like, you can spend 6 months here, but the other 6 months you can live wherever you want. So maybe that 6 months we live in Ensenada, right? Over there by San Diego. Maybe the other 6 months we have to live in St. Louis or wherever. We don't know, but at least we're considering that lifestyle now, and we're trying to build it now before we get out.
Yeah, no, you speak volumes to me because I'm in one of those positions, apply to so many remote positions, and no matter how good your resume is, there's it's all about how you project yourself when you get out, delivering those experiences and your skill set. I mean, I'm in Florida, I can't really complain, but now as I've lived here for I've lived here for a year now. I would love to have some property, I have a good friend that just bought like 20 acres, and it's like that's kind of the life I want to live,
Yeah.
a little house on the prairie type stuff where you can go out with your dogs and maybe ride a four-wheeler around, go fishing on your own property. That's kind of
Mhm.
something I want to do. Am I there yet? No, but I definitely see myself making it there in the next 5 to 10 years. So we'll see.
But that's just it. You got to have that vision now, and you got to drive for it. So it's not just doing all this, like, pay off your debt, do that kind of stuff, but you got to have the broader vision, right? Outside of what you're doing. Interesting. We're going to talk offline, but there's a pretty good chance I'm going to be moving down, like literally right where you're at. So because of my promotion. So we'll see.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. So I literally might be right there with you, here in the next 6 to 12 months. So
That'll be
pretty
great.
excited about
It'll
that.
make the podcasting a little easier. Maybe we can just do it across the table
Get
instead of
together. Yeah.
1,500 miles right now.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
pretty excited about that, man. But anyway, so the topic we really to talk about is military life doesn't last forever. And that's just absolutely true. Even if you do the 20, 30 years, 20, 30 years happens fast. And I know that sounds crazy to people that are just getting in, but man, it's there before you know it. I have 4 years left, and my first enlistment wasn't even 4 years. I only had 2 years left to retire if I wouldn't have promoted, right? But now I have the 4 years. And so it gives me a little bit of extra time to kind of get ready. So life happens fast. Then get your finances together. And I think that, like you said, paying off your debt, right? Pay off your debt. Think about investing. We'll talk much more about this later, but I personally think trying to buy a property at every place you go and rent it, even if you don't rent it, if you buy a property, live in it for 2 to 3 years, sell it, capture that equity. Now you just made $100,000 living in a house that you would have been living in anyways. Maybe not that house specifically, but you would have been paying rent anyways. You sell it, now you have $100,000. You PCS, you do it again, right? At a minimum, you're capturing that equity on that property, right? And you're using your VA loan to do it. And so you're very little money down. And yeah, you have maintenance and that kind of stuff. Anyways, or you can buy it, hold it, and then buy another property when you go. And if you do that, then you have 4, 5, 6 rentals before you get out. And that's pretty awesome. Then you
And I
have,
think that
oh, go ahead.
I think the way that people should sometimes look at it as well is like almost a savings account, right? So instead of paying someone else's mortgage, you're paying your own mortgage. So you are building that equity. But you also have to look at the benefit of BAH. If you don't look at BAH as like money in your pocket and you look at it as like literally housing, the
Mhm.
military is literally paying you to buy a house if you look at it
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's
That's
what we do. I
insane.
mean, we're in Colorado right now, and when we came here, it was absolutely insane the price of homes when we got here, and we were really frustrated by it. But we still bought because we believe in the value of equity. I can tell you, becoming becoming a millionaire is not that difficult if you use equity of properties, right? Equity of property, the value that your dollar has when you put it in a house and how fast it grows, it doesn't take long before you start to capture so much equity that you really start to separate yourself financially. And I think the average net worth of a U.S. Citizen without a property is about $500. The average net worth of a citizen that owns a house is about 250,000. That's a huge gap in net worth. Now that isn't
Yeah.
cash accessible immediately, but you can access that for other things if you'd like, and that's a whole nother topic. And then projecting your purpose, right? So what do you want to do? Do you want to help others? What is the thing that you drives you the most, right? And you kind of talked about it as far as your purpose being, serving others, potentially helping veterans and other service members kind of find their purpose, which is what we're starting to do here, right? We're starting to drive to that purpose. Maybe like for me, I'm really passionate about leadership, strategic planning, education, helping others, including service members, helping, people that are in special education with my personal background, that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to find that purpose and I don't know it yet. And that's, I don't know what I'm gonna do when I grow up and retire, but I'm working towards it.
Yeah. A year and a half out. I still don't know either, but I think, we're working towards that and that's all that matters. Day by day, right? Never stop
Heck yeah.
learning, never stop serving.
Never stop serving. So do you have any, I just kind of gave a recap. Do you have any final comments?
I don't. I just want to say thanks for the opportunity, Paul. I know we've been talking about this for a while. So we got the first one under the belt. Let's keep them rolling. But expect us to top, expect us to touch more on these topics in the future, especially finance, personal development, professional development, all things of those nature, even fitness if he wants to go down that rabbit hole. But we're definitely here to help and just to learn as well. So have
Well,
a good
let's be
one.
clear. You gave me the opportunity because you've been the one that's been like, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. And you had to
Yeah.
kick me in the booty to get me motivated. So I appreciate it,
Hey
brother.
man, I'm ready to knock the next 50 out. I was watching Alex Hormozy, one of his videos, and he was saying, I just recorded, once or twice a week until, eventually you're going to get traction. But I think the
Yeah.
more we do, the easier it'll get, and it'll give us both an outlet to speak our minds. And I think that's great.
Hell yeah, brother. I appreciate it, man. Well, that's the first podcast down, our first video down, and we're, here's to, 700 more and coming in the future.
Yeah, y'all have a great day.
See you, brother.